He still wears a tailored suit, still drives a black BMW through the wide streets of Pudong, still posts family photos with brunch and weekend hikes. But last week, he quietly listed his apartment, 4 bedrooms, skyline view, for sale at 2 million yuan below market price. No one asked why, because everyone already knows. In today's China, even the rich are running. Tech founders, e-commerce sellers, factory owners, people who once embodied the new China, asset-heavy, globally connected, self-made. They're now liquidating in silence, selling homes, canceling investments, fleeing to second-tier cities or out of the country altogether. Not because they're broke, because they see what's coming. A collapsing property market, a shrinking economy, a government that says confidence is strong, while censoring every sign that it's not. They're not waiting to hit bottom. They're leaving before the fall becomes visible. And that raises one question. If even the winners are bailing, who's left to believe? In Hangzhou's upscale districts, home prices have dropped by 25% since early 2023. Yet it's not the poor who are selling. It's the successful, business owners, startup founders, software developers who once posted motivational quotes about hustle. They're now whispering about asset lightening. It's a polite term for liquidating before the storm hits. In 2025, more than 220,000 second-hand homes were listed for sale in Shanghai alone, an all-time high. Apartments once fought over at open houses are now discounted quietly, often below loan value. Sellers remove furniture, strip nameplates, and tell agents, find a cash buyer, fast. This isn't panic, it's precision, because the people selling early aren't desperate. They're informed. They see what the headlines won't admit, that the real estate engine is broken, that construction has outpaced demand, that prices are falling fast, and there's no bottom in sight. They also know what others don't. Their factories have stopped hiring. Their logistics networks have slowed. Their investor chats are dry. Their employees are asking for advances. Their online stores are running fewer ads. And behind the numbers is a truth too uncomfortable for state media to say out loud. The Chinese middle class is no longer rising. It's retreating. In private WeChat groups, they talk about getting money out, cutting losses. Holding yuan feels like holding ice. Sell while you can. If you wait, you'll be trapped with the others. These aren't peasants fleeing famine. These are homeowners with 2 cars, foreign degrees, and bank accounts overseas. But they're leaving or preparing to because the signals are everywhere. In 2024, China's average housing price fell for 36 consecutive months, marking the worst decline since private home ownership was legalized. Even luxury real estate, once seen as safe, is down by double digits. Developers are offering gold bars, free renovations, even guaranteed buybacks. None of it is working, and so the middle class, once Beijing's pride, is quietly taking off the mask. The brunch photos are still there. The social media check-ins haven't stopped. But behind the scenes, mortgages are being renegotiated. Secondary homes are being offloaded. Children are being transferred to schools abroad. Not out of hope, but out of exit strategy. They don't want to be the last ones holding the illusion. They've seen how fast things fall in China. 1 month, it's stable. The next, the platform is shut down, the building is locked, the rules are rewritten. They're not waiting for the announcement. They're already gone. This wasn't supposed to happen. Not to them. The factory owners, e-commerce sellers, logistics brokers, they were the success stories. The ones who made it. The ones Beijing pointed to when selling its new middle-class dream. But that dream wasn't built on local demand or domestic consumption. It was built on exports, on foreign markets, on American shoppers. And now that bridge is collapsing. In 2024, the United States raised tariffs on a sweeping list of Chinese goods, up to 145% in some categories. At the same time, the de minimis loophole was closed, meaning goods under $800, once duty-free, were suddenly taxed, devastating platforms like Temu, Shine, and the army of small sellers beneath them. The impact was immediate. U.S. imports from China fell 8.3%. Thousands of container orders were canceled. Factories in Guangdong and Zhejiang laid off workers. Online sellers watched their margins vanish overnight. And the people hit hardest? Not just the workers, but the owners, because the system they operated in wasn't flexible. It was highly optimized for cheap labor, scale, and foreign demand. When that demand stopped, the machine jammed. Many middle-class entrepreneurs tried pivoting to domestic sales, but the numbers didn't work. Selling abroad meant profits of $20 to $30 per unit. Selling domestically, margins dropped to $2 or worse. Return rates were high, payment cycles delayed, consumer spending down. Why? Because the people they were trying to sell to were also broke. This is the vicious loop of collapse. Exports die, income dies, domestic demand dies, so businesses chase a shrinking pie. Meanwhile, the government offered stimulus, but it was aimed at state giants, not small businesses. The private sector still faces rising audits, policy shifts, and a business environment soaked in uncertainty. So what do you do when you're leveraged into two properties? Your export orders vanish, your domestic customers go quiet, and the system is telling you everything is fine? You start preparing your exit, because the people who got rich in this system understand one thing best. It's not designed to protect the individual. It's designed to protect the headline. And when the headlines say stability, but your spreadsheets say loss, you don't argue. You liquidate. You wire funds overseas. You move your family before the next policy hits. Not because you're disloyal, but because you've seen this before. In 2008, in 2015, in 2022. But this time, it's different, because the world is moving on. And China's middle class is being left to carry a burden the system no longer wants to acknowledge. In a private business forum on WeChat, someone posted, "This is no longer a slowdown. It's a silent bankruptcy, playing out in real time." No one disagreed. They just started deleting their own posts. In China's middle-class economy, success was once measured in square meters, import contracts, and WeChat group clout. Now, it's measured in how fast you can disappear before the bank, the regulators, or your own clients catch on. In 2025, over 100,000 small and medium-sized businesses have closed or suspended operations, especially in export-intensive regions like Zhejiang, Guangdong, and Fujian. And this wave is different from the past, because this time it's not just about zero COVID. It's about zero confidence. A furniture exporter in Foshan closed down in April. His reason? It's not the tariffs. It's the fact that no one will tell me what next month's rule is. His clients were in the US. His logistics partner stopped offering fixed rates. His local government sent him a safety inspection team 2 days before payroll. He didn't fight. He paid severance. He sold equipment. He left. Stories like this echo across industries. Garment factories downsizing from 3 shifts to 1, then to none. E-commerce fulfillment centers going dark after Shein paused new orders. Packaging manufacturers reporting 80% drop in demand. Tech startups who can't raise funds because VCs are pulling capital offshore. And in the background, one industry looms large: real estate. Private developers once served as the savings account for China's middle class. If you had money, you bought property. If you had a business, you bought commercial space. If you had ambition, you bought land. Now, that logic is reversing fast. Developers like Evergrande and Country Garden, once financial juggernauts, are now symbols of debt collapse. Evergrande's offshore liquidation confirmed what many suspected. No one is coming to finish those towers. No one is coming to repay investors. Worse, Country Garden is restructuring nearly $190 billion in liabilities, with thousands of projects stalled. Cash is frozen. Sales are evaporating. Trust is dead. This trickles down into the middle class in unexpected ways. A restaurant owner in Hangzhou revealed he poured his family's savings into a pre-sale apartment in 2021. Construction halted in late 2023. Since then, he's been paying both rent and mortgage for 2 years. His business is barely breaking even. His landlord raised rent anyway. He tried to go public with his story, but the property forum he used now requires real name registration. His post was removed within hours for violating community harmony. Meanwhile, the platforms that once championed entrepreneurial energy are going dark. Bilibili creators focusing on finance are self-censoring. Zhihu posts about bankruptcy or deflation get auto-flagged. Business influencers now speak in code, shift expectations, optimize exposure, restructure priorities. Translation: get out while you can. And behind closed doors, capital is doing exactly that. According to Reuters, China's sovereign wealth fund is quietly offloading U.S. real estate and infrastructure stakes, citing geopolitical risk. At the same time, private individuals are increasing foreign asset transfers, often through indirect channels, Hong Kong banks, crypto holdings, or Singapore trusts. One immigration agent in Shenzhen said demand for investment visas to Canada and Portugal has tripled since late 2024. It's not about leaving China, he explained. It's about having somewhere else to breathe. This is what the end of a middle-class era looks like. Not riots, not collapse, just silence, empty offices, quiet withdrawals, businesses folding without a word, owners exiting without a goodbye. Because in a country where asking questions is dangerous, the safest thing to do is disappear. They still look successful. Scroll through Xiaohongshu or WeChat moments, and you'll see it. Filtered selfies in cafes, parents attending piano recitals, young couples holding the keys to their first apartment. But off-screen, the music has stopped. One woman, a former marketing director in Nanjing, now sells beauty products on livestream. She doesn't mention her MBA. She doesn't talk about the condo she's now trying to rent out to cover mortgage payments. Her husband, once a tech recruiter, hasn't had a full-time job since 2023. They smile, they promote, they survive. This is the new middle class, still dressed well, still performing, but quietly unraveling. In 2025, China's urban unemployment rate officially stands at 5.3%, but unofficial estimates suggest the number is far higher, especially among white-collar workers and recent graduates. According to leaked internal research, youth unemployment has likely surpassed 20%, though Beijing stopped publishing the figure in 2023. In a country where status is everything, these numbers aren't just economic. They're emotional, they're existential. Because the middle class in China isn't just about income, it's about identity. You're expected to have a condo, drive a car, take care of your aging parents, afford private school for your kid, and never show weakness. But what happens when the job is gone? When the mortgage is underwater? When the future gets smaller by the month? You don't scream, you shrink. A recent viral post, later deleted, described a 34-year-old finance manager in Shanghai who now works as a part-time delivery driver. I make $20 a day. I tell myself it's temporary, but I've been saying that for 11 months. His friends don't know. He still wears business shirts on Zoom calls. There's no office behind him, just a painted wall. This quiet collapse is generational. Many Gen Z and millennial professionals grew up believing in the new China. Globalized, wealthy, predictable. They studied hard, got degrees, did internships. They followed the script. Now the script is burning. Job boards are empty. Interviews lead nowhere. Rent is rising even as salaries stagnate. A 2025 survey found that over 70% of Chinese youth no longer believe they will earn more than their parents. That figure was under 30% just 5 years ago. Some respond with sarcasm. On forums, they joke, "It's okay. My retirement plan is reincarnation." China Dream 2.0. Deliver food until 65. Others shut down. Therapists report a spike in anxiety and depressive disorders among urban white-collar workers. But therapy is expensive and still taboo. Instead, people disappear digitally. They delete WeChat. They go offline. They ghost. Because it's safer to vanish than to explain why you're slipping. Parents feel it too. Many took on co-signed mortgages with their children. They borrowed for tutoring. They saved for weddings. Now, their home value has dropped. Their pension is thin. Their child is unemployed. And they're too ashamed to tell anyone. A 58-year-old engineer in Chengdu sold his second apartment, once intended for his daughter's marriage, to pay off her online business loan. "I don't blame her," he said. "We told her to dream big. Then the world shrank." But perhaps the most haunting shift isn't financial. It's psychological. The middle class no longer expects things to improve. They just want to not fall further. They're not chasing prosperity. They're managing descent. And in a society where saving face is everything, this collapse doesn't come with headlines. It comes with polite smiles, carefully worded captions, and long silences at dinner, because in China today the collapse is personal, and no one wants to be the first to say it out loud. In 2013, China promised the world a new model: the Belt and Road, smart cities, a confident, rising middle class that would drive global consumption. Beijing called it national rejuvenation. Western headlines called it the Chinese century. But in 2025, the illusion is cracking. Not because of war, not because of sanctions, but because the very class meant to embody that dream, the educated, urban, globally connected middle class, is now withdrawing, downsizing, and in many cases disappearing. And outside China, the world has started noticing. Let's start with the numbers. In 2024, China's foreign exchange reserves fell from $3.2 trillion to $2.9 trillion, the lowest in nearly a decade. Private capital outflows are accelerating. Offshore trusts, Singapore family offices, immigration by investment spikes, because wealth, even patriotic wealth, is hedging its bets. At the same time, U.S. China decoupling is no longer a threat. It's a map. By mid-2025, the United States finalized or accelerated trade realignments with India, Vietnam, Mexico, the Philippines, Brazil. India alone has seen a 12% rise in exports to the U.S. Vietnam, 15%. China's share is shrinking by design. Washington didn't just impose tariffs. It built a new ecosystem around them. Under pressure, Chinese exporters tried rerouting goods through Southeast Asia. But those loopholes are closing. India rejected origin washing deals. The U.S. now audits certificate of origin filings aggressively. The gray channel is being painted black and white. And as China's global leverage shrinks, so does its ability to shape the narrative. In April 2025, Beijing quietly lifted sanctions on 5 European Parliament members, hoping to thaw frozen investment talks with the EU. But the gesture backfired. European leaders pointed to China's human rights record, intellectual property violations, lack of market reciprocity, and, most crucially, its internal suppression of dissent. Because when middle-class homeowners can't post videos about abandoned apartments, when economic data vanishes from government websites, when mortgage boycotts are labeled as public order threats, it's not just a domestic problem. It's a credibility collapse. That collapse has geopolitical consequences. The EU has begun formal anti-subsidy probes into Chinese electric vehicles and solar panels. Germany and France are drafting tariff responses of their own. Even Ireland, one of China's quieter trade partners, is rethinking potential purchases of the C-919 passenger jet, citing CCP military ties and espionage concerns. This is no longer a battle over economics. It's a battle over trust. And China, despite its ambitions, is losing the middle of the map. Africa is defaulting on Belt and Road loans. ASEAN nations are quietly pivoting toward the U.S. BRICS partners are hedging exposure. Even Latin American partners are reconsidering infrastructure deals. Beijing continues to say globalization, but its own people can't post about unpaid wages. It says shared prosperity, but deletes posts about half-built homes. It says win-win, but treats criticism, foreign or domestic, as sabotage. And what about inside? The domestic narrative still insists the recovery is underway. CCTV headlines say, consumption rising, confidence returning. China will always welcome foreign investment. But in reality, Youth unemployment isn't published anymore. Private developers are defaulting. Middle-class families are liquidating. And data blackouts are becoming national policy. The West doesn't need to expose this. China's middle class already is. By leaving, by liquidating, by going quiet. Because if even they, loyal, educated, upwardly mobile, no longer believe in the system, then why should anyone else? This isn't just the end of a financial cycle. It's the unraveling of a national narrative. Promise made, a class built, and now, a silence so deep you can hear the exit doors creak. They had everything to lose, and that's exactly why they left. Not with headlines, not with protests, just listings posted at midnight, flights quietly booked, loans paid down, accounts transferred out. China's middle class, the very symbol of its rise, is stepping off the stage, not because they're ungrateful, but because they no longer recognize the script. They were told to build wealth, buy homes, trust the system. And now they watch that system delete data, silence dissent, and punish the very people who followed the rules. So they disappear, smiling in photos, packing behind the scenes. And that leaves us with a final question. When the most loyal players start leaving the game, is it still a country? Or just a theater with no one left in the seats?